Hello, my name is Keely Head, and along with
Siobhan Moore
and Grace Blair.
This is our National History Day Project 2015.
About Elizabeth Blackwell, the first woman doctor in America.
Our story begins on February 3rd, 1821. On this day, Elizabeth Blackwell was born in the town of Bristol, England. She lived with her mother, Hannah Lane Blackwell, and her father, Samuel Blackwell.
Elizabeth Blackwell had 7 siblings, 4 sisters and 3 brothers.
Blackwell's father was a strong believer that women should have the same education opportunities as men. He had all 7 of his children receive a full education, which was put on hold when they moved to New York.
Their education resumed when the family got to New York.
Blackwell and her family moved to New York when she was only 11 years old.
If I could have been treated by a lady doctor, my worst sufferings would have been spared. Why don't you study medicine?
At this time, however, women were thought of as the weaker sex and were just supposed to stay home and cook and clean and raise the children. So the idea of a woman being a doctor was very different to anything anyone had ever heard of before. But that didn't stop her.
She went on and applied to 29 medical colleges.
Blackwell was accepted to one medical school, Geneva Medical College. She later found out that it was all a practical joke.
The school thought it was perhaps their rival messing with them, so they accepted the application and were shocked when a real woman showed up to class. She was discouraged, but it only made her try harder.
Blackwell was not allowed to participate in some activities because she was a woman, but the teaching staff and her classmates eventually believed in her because she was quiet and a hard worker.
In 1849, she received her MD and said, "It shall be the effort of my life to shed honor on this diploma." She went on to change people's views about the gender of a doctor. One of her sisters followed in her footsteps and became a doctor.
Now we will show a clip of the first woman doctor in Canada.
Send them home! Get rid of them! Gentlemen, please.
And so, this organ, which I regret I cannot name, because of the presence of these members of the weaker sex, who, although they are married, could not possibly endure...
Get them out.
Patience, Ginny. Patience.
Get them out!
Dr. McFarland!
Mrs. Trout.
There's no place for women in a medical school. Get them out!
If you do not bring this classroom under control, I am going to repeat every word of this disgusting lecture to your charming wife.
My friend Jenny Trout was not the only woman to face this kind of thing in medical school. But she would become the first woman licensed to practice medicine in Canada.
In 1851, she was treating a baby with purulent ophthalmia, and the disease spread to her left eye, and she lost sight in that eye, giving up her hopes of being a surgeon.
When her infected eye was being removed, she said, "Ah, how dreadful it was to find the daylight gradually fading as my kind doctor bent over me and removed with exquisite delicacy the touch of the films that had been formed over the pupil. I could see him for a moment clearly, but the sight soon vanished and the eye was left in darkness."
In 1853, Blackwell traveled to Europe for further medical studies.
She worked at clinics in Paris and London. Blackwell also took classes at the Collège de France and the Jardin La Plante.
In 1857, Blackwell opened an infirmary for women and children.
She worked with her sister Emily, who was the 3rd woman in the U.S. to receive a medical degree.
In 1859, Dr. Blackwell became the first woman to have her name on the British Medical Register.
Also in 1859, Blackwell and one of her sisters, Emily Blackwell, trained nurses who would serve in the Civil War.
Dr. Blackwell had many leaderships and legacies in her life.
She showed men that women can have their own jobs and provide for the families financially by themselves. She opened an infirmary, college, school, and dispensary that would help people all over the world. In 1875, Elizabeth Blackwell became the professor of gynecology at the London School of Medicine for Children.
The infirmary, dispensary, college, and school she opened helped doctors find work.
She made a path for many generations of women physicians when she died and made a lasting influence that showed people you can do anything you want even when you are discouraged.
Her lectures and work inspired many women as well.
Blackwell was thought of as a pioneer for women in the medical profession.
She was also described as a guiding star to rebellious women everywhere.
She also was an avid writer.
Her autobiography inspired many women.
Blackwell never married, but she did adopt an orphan named Catherine Barry, also known as Kitty.
After Elizabeth passed away in 1910 at age 89, her legacy still lived on.
By the time Blackwell died, there were more than 7,000 women doctors in America.
Ever since she broke the barrier for women, the number of women doctors and nurses keeps increasing.
Like today, we have nurse Casey Hickox, who traveled to West Africa to fight Ebola and fought quarantine in the U.S. Her quarantine was based mainly on fear, not by science, and she stood up and fought against the government's quarantine.
So for that, all the women doctors and all women are truly grateful for her sacrifices and struggles to get the world of women doctors to where it is today.
Thank you for watching our video on Elizabeth Blackwell. I'm Keely Head.
Grace Blair.
And I'm Siobhan Moore.